Welcome to the National Geographic Capstone Project, The Walrus and the Carpenter, by Lewis Carroll, presented by Natalie Kulig, reading assistant in Grayslake, Illinois, writing coach and tutor. Welcome to the wonderful world of Alice in Wonderland and all the characters that are introduced to us through Disney's version and the original Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass. We'll couple this with National Geographic's Walrus and the Carpenter and see how everything compares. Poetry Toolbox. Every writer needs to have their toolbox. Reintroduce your student to the poetry toolbox to remind them of all the different ways a writer uses alliteration, allusion, repetition for effect, and onomatopoeia. Author's biography. By introducing the student to the author, his background, biography, through paper or video, helps the student understand perhaps why the author wrote the poem. I often find that today's students are not aware of many of the children's classics. Perhaps have them read The Golden Book, Alice in Wonderland, and then show them a clip of The Walrus and the Carpenter to get them familiar with the idea of what they're going to be reading. Concept maps. To me, it is the cornerstone of helping a student keep their ideas together and get ready to write. In this case, I had the students do circle maps and a tree map, looking at perhaps the different ways that the story was presented in both the Disney version and the original version by Lewis Carroll, or perhaps information about the author. But no learning is complete if the student can't interpret it. By having the student look at the poem and rewrite it in their own words to see if they understood it, as well as picking out the various poetry, literary elements, and then writing paragraphs helps bring the entire piece together. Assessment is a word that most students don't like to hear. However, an assessment is the best way for the teacher to make sure that the student has understanding of the lesson. Through multiple choice, evidence supporting Common Core questions, to the questions on the National Geographic site, looking for answers about the poetry tools. The National Geographic Human and Natural World Connections. After the core work is done, then it's time to look at the National Geographic Human and Natural World Connections. As you can see on this chart, we have the regional and the global, looking from where the oysters came from. We have the geographical, and we have the ecological. There's information in the website about where the oysters come from and how to farm them. Observation. What will your student notice? Another way to use the National Geographic website was this picture of this man and the walrus that looked very similar to John Tenniel's Walrus and the Carpenter, showing that imagination definitely looks like reality. The students also looked at all the different pictures from the National Geographic website, The Walrus and the Carpenter, and were able to see the sun that shined all night. It emulated the actual words of the poem. The human and natural world connection is what makes the lesson, coupled with National Geographic, so powerful. The students were looking at different pictures in the National Geographic website, and when one student noticed the feet binding in China, they wanted to know more about the cultural aspect of why the women did this. The wildlife and wild places aspect of National Geographic had my student ask specifically about how you eat oysters and how are they cooked, And where do they come from, and why do they look different, and how are pearls made? So we were able to do a whole additional science lesson just on the curiosity of one photo. National Geographic has profoundly affected me and the way I will teach in the future. Each time I do a lesson, I find myself adding more pieces from the National Geographic website. It is a great way for me to expand my knowledge as well. I've even made shoes just like the picture. So let's know that poetry can be fun, especially if we do it the National Geographic way.